Stop for a moment because what you are about to hear may completely change the way you see love, heartbreak, and destiny. Imagine discovering that the person you believe is your soulmate is sitting across from someone else right now. They are smiling. They are talking. Maybe they are even building a future that you once dreamed of sharing with them. What would happen inside you? Would you see it as proof that you have lost them forever? Or could it be that what looks like the end is actually the beginning of a deeper story you cannot yet understand? Most people give up at this exact moment. They assume another person's choice defines their worth. They convince themselves they weren't enough, that they missed their only chance, and that love has permanently passed them by. But what if those thoughts are nothing more than illusions created by fear? What if the greatest mistake isn't that your soulmate is meeting someone else, but that you are ready to abandon yourself because of it? Today, we are going to uncover the hidden psychological patterns that keep people trapped in heartbreak. Why temporary relationships often reveal life's deepest lessons, and why the person who walks away is not always the person who wins. Before you lose hope, before you let fear write the ending to your story, stay with me until the very end. Because one insight could completely transform the way you see your future, your heart, and the love you believe is meant for you. Many people experience deep emotional pain when they imagine that the person they believe is meant for them is spending time with someone else. The mind immediately jumps to the worst possible conclusion. It is over. I missed my chance. They have chosen someone else forever. But the human journey is rarely that simple. Life unfolds through experiences that shape people gradually, not instantly. Every meaningful relationship, whether it lasts a few weeks or many years, leaves behind lessons that influence future choices. What appears to be the end of one possibility may actually be part of a much larger process that neither person fully understands while living through it. One of the greatest misunderstandings about love is the belief that every relationship is meant to last forever. In reality, many relationships exist because they awaken something that has been sleeping inside a person. Someone may enter another relationship believing they have found everything they need, only to discover that attraction alone cannot create emotional security, trust, or genuine understanding. Excitement can fade. Novelty can disappear. What remains is the truth of who both people are beneath appearances. This realization often becomes one of life's greatest teachers. Sometimes people are drawn towards someone who reflects their current emotional state rather than their deepest emotional needs. If they are insecure, they may choose familiarity over growth. If they fear vulnerability, they may select relationships that feel emotionally safe because they never require complete honesty. If they are searching for validation, they may confuse admiration with love. These choices are not necessarily mistakes. They are reflections of the inner world they are carrying at that moment. As people grow, their understanding of love often changes as well. At the same time, it is equally important not to build certainty around the idea that someone is destined to return or that every temporary relationship has a hidden promise waiting for you. None of us can know another person's future decisions with certainty. Believing that someone is your soulmate does not provide evidence about what they will choose. What it can do, however, is encourage reflection on your own emotional journey instead of becoming consumed by another person's current circumstances. While another person is living their own experiences, your own life continues to unfold. Waiting emotionally in one place can become just as limiting as chasing someone who is unavailable. Every day spent comparing yourself to another person or wondering why they were chosen instead of you is a day taken away from your own growth. The energy invested in constant comparison slowly weakens confidence because your happiness becomes dependent on events outside your control. Many people overlook the possibility that both individuals are changing separately. Experiences shape values, reveal blind spots, challenge unrealistic expectations, and sometimes expose emotional wounds that were previously hidden. Whether those experiences happen together or apart, they influence who each person becomes. This is why relationships cannot be understood only by looking at where someone is today. Human beings are constantly evolving through success, disappointment, hope, and loss. Instead of asking why someone else is meeting another person, a more meaningful question is what this moment invites you to learn about yourself. Are you becoming more emotionally resilient? Are you learning to value yourself without needing constant reassurance from someone else's choices? Are you building a life that feels meaningful regardless of who enters or leaves it? These questions shift attention away from uncertainty and toward personal development. When you stop treating another person's current relationship as the final verdict on your future, you begin to see life with greater clarity. Love is not measured by timing alone, and another person's present path does not define your worth. Every experience, whether joyful or painful, has the potential to deepen self-awareness, strengthen emotional maturity, and prepare you for healthier relationships built on mutual choice, trust, and genuine connection, rather than fear of losing what was never truly within your control. There are moments in life when everything seems to move in the opposite direction of what the heart desires. You hope for closeness, yet distance appears. You expect certainty, yet confusion takes its place. You imagine that love should arrive through a straight path, but instead you encounter delays, misunderstandings, disappointments, or the painful reality that someone you care about is choosing a different direction. These experiences often feel meaningless while they are happening, but they can reveal parts of ourselves that comfort and success rarely expose. Difficult moments have a way of uncovering hidden emotional patterns that remain invisible when life is going according to plan. Many people believe their greatest obstacle is another person's decision, when in reality, the deeper challenge lies within their own emotional world. A painful situation often acts like a mirror. It reflects fears that have been quietly influencing thoughts and behaviors for years. The fear of being abandoned, the fear of not being enough, the fear of being replaced, or the fear that happiness always belongs to someone else can become painfully visible during emotional setbacks. These fears may have existed long before the current relationship or situation, but disappointment brings them to the surface where they can no longer be ignored. When someone you care about appears to move toward another person, the immediate reaction is often comparison. The mind begins asking endless questions. What do they have that I don't? Why wasn't I chosen? What is wrong with me? These questions feel natural, but they rarely lead to peace because they are based on the assumption that your worth is determined by another person's preference. In reality, every individual makes relationship choices for many reasons, including timing, emotional readiness, personal history, shared experiences, compatibility, and values. Those choices are not a complete measurement of another person's value. Emotional detours also challenge unrealistic expectations about love itself. Many people unknowingly expect love to remove every insecurity or heal every emotional wound. When that expectation is placed on another person, disappointment becomes almost unavoidable because no relationship can permanently solve inner struggles. Healthy love can provide support, encouragement, and companionship. But lasting emotional stability grows from developing self-awareness, resilience, and self-respect. Without those qualities, even the happiest relationship can become weighed down by constant fear, dependence, or the need for reassurance. Periods of waiting or uncertainty can also become opportunities to build emotional strength. Instead of filling every quiet moment with worry about someone else's life, you can begin asking more productive questions. What habits make me feel more confident? What dreams have I postponed while focusing on someone else? Which emotional patterns continue repeating in my relationships? These questions shift attention away from what cannot be controlled and toward meaningful personal growth. Over time, this inner work often changes not only how someone experiences love, but also the kinds of relationships they choose. Another hidden purpose of emotional detours is that they encourage patience. Modern life often teaches people to expect immediate results. Yet, emotional maturity develops slowly. Trust is built over time. Wisdom grows through repeated experiences. Self-standing deepens through honest reflection rather than quick solutions. A delay in one area of life does not necessarily mean life has stopped moving forward. Sometimes the most important progress happens quietly, where confidence is rebuilt, priorities become clearer, and unhealthy emotional habits gradually lose their influence. Rather than viewing every disappointment as evidence that life is working against you, it can become an invitation to understand yourself more deeply. Pain does not automatically create wisdom, but it often provides the opportunity for wisdom if you are willing to examine what it reveals. Every unexpected turn has the potential to uncover greater emotional honesty, stronger self-worth, healthier boundaries, and a clearer understanding of the kind of love that supports genuine growth instead of simply satisfying temporary emotional needs. When emotions become intense, many people feel an overwhelming urge to act immediately. They send another message, make another phone call, check social media one more time, or search endlessly for signs that the other person still cares. It feels as though doing something is better than doing nothing. Yet, there is an important difference between taking healthy action and reacting from fear. Fear-driven behavior often seeks to eliminate uncertainty as quickly as possible, while healthy action respects both your own dignity and the other person's freedom to make their own choices. This distinction can determine whether love has room to grow or becomes overwhelmed by pressure. Chasing someone usually begins with a sincere desire to preserve a connection, but it can gradually turn into a pattern where your emotional well-being depends almost entirely on another person's responses. Every delayed reply feels like rejection. Every conversation becomes a test of whether they still care. Instead of enjoying the relationship, you become trapped in constant emotional monitoring. The relationship no longer feels like two people freely choosing each other. It begins to feel like one person trying to convince the other not to leave. This creates exhaustion for both individuals and shifts attention away from genuine connection. Control often appears in subtle ways. It may not involve giving demands or ultimatums. Instead, it can take the form of trying to predict every move, interpreting every word, or believing that if you say exactly the right thing, the outcome will finally change. While thoughtful communication is valuable, no perfect sentence can guarantee another person's feelings or decisions. Human relationships are influenced by countless factors, including personal history, emotional readiness, values, timing, and individual growth. Accepting that uncertainty exists is difficult, but it is also one of the foundations of emotional maturity. Comparison is another habit that quietly weakens confidence. When you believe someone you care about is interested in another person, the mind naturally begins searching for differences. You compare appearance, success, personality, lifestyle, or achievements. Soon you start measuring your own worth against someone else's life, often using incomplete or imagined information. This process is deeply unfair because you rarely know the full reality of another person's relationship or personal struggles. Comparing your entire life to someone else's visible moments almost always leads to distorted conclusions and unnecessary self-doubt. Real confidence grows when your identity is no longer built upon being chosen by a particular person. This does not mean pretending you do not care or suppressing your emotions. It means recognizing that your value existed before this relationship and will continue regardless of its outcome. People who possess healthy, self-worth approach relationships differently. They express affection honestly, communicate respectfully, and remain open to love, but they do not sacrifice their identity or self-respect in an attempt to hold on to someone at any cost. They understand that love offered freely has greater strength than love maintained through fear. Patience also plays a powerful role in healthy relationships. Sometimes giving space is not a sign of giving up. It is a sign of trusting that genuine feelings cannot be forced. Constant pressure rarely creates lasting affection. Instead, it may prevent both people from seeing the relationship clearly because every interaction becomes filled with tension. Space allows emotions to settle, perspectives to change, and decisions to arise more naturally. Whether the relationship ultimately continues or ends, both individuals are more likely to act from honesty rather than emotional panic. This does not mean becoming passive or refusing to communicate. Healthy relationships require openness, vulnerability, and effort from both people. The difference lies in motivation. Communication that comes from confidence seeks understanding rather than control. Effort that comes from self-respect invites connection instead of demanding reassurance. Love flourishes where there is freedom to choose, not where fear constantly asks for proof. When you release the need to chase every answer, control every outcome, or compare yourself with everyone around you, you create space for a deeper sense of peace. In that peace, your actions become guided by clarity instead of anxiety, allowing your relationships to be shaped by authenticity, mutual respect, and emotional stability rather than the exhausting pursuit of certainty. If someone you deeply care about is currently building a relationship with another person, it is easy to assume that their story has reached its final destination. The heart often interprets another relationship as permanent proof that you have been forgotten or replaced. Yet, human relationships are rarely that predictable. Every meaningful connection becomes a teacher, whether it lasts for decades or only a short season. The experiences people have with others often reveal truths about themselves that they could never discover in isolation. Every conversation, disagreement, disappointment, and moment of joy becomes part of an inner education that shapes how they understand love. A relationship may begin with excitement, attraction, and hope. But as time passes, deeper aspects of both individuals gradually emerge. Habits become visible, expectations are tested, and emotional patterns that were hidden during the early stages begin to surface. Some people realize they have been avoiding honest communication. Others discover they fear vulnerability more than they realized. Some recognize that they have been seeking validation instead of genuine companionship. These realizations are not signs that the relationship has failed completely. They are signs that life is revealing aspects of the personality that still need attention and growth. Sometimes people enter relationships believing they know exactly what they need, only to discover that their expectations were shaped more by fantasy than by reality. They may be attracted to confidence, but later realize they value kindness more. They may pursue excitement only to discover that emotional safety brings deeper fulfillment. They may focus on external qualities while overlooking the importance of trust, patience, and mutual respect. These discoveries cannot always be learned through advice alone. Many lessons become meaningful only after they are personally experienced. It is also important to remember that another person's current relationship is not something you can accurately evaluate from the outside. Social media, public appearances, or brief observations rarely reveal the full emotional reality between two people. Every relationship has private conversations, silent struggles, misunderstandings, and moments of growth that remain invisible to everyone else. Creating stories about how happy or perfect another couple must be often increases unnecessary suffering because those stories are based on assumptions rather than complete knowledge. At the same time, it is unhealthy to assume that every relationship another person enters is merely temporary or exists solely to lead them back to you. There is no way to predict another person's future choices with certainty. Some relationships grow stronger over time while others naturally come to an end. Accepting this uncertainty is difficult, but it prevents hope from becoming unrealistic expectation. Real emotional maturity allows room for possibility without demanding a particular outcome. Whether someone's current relationship lasts or not, the experiences they gain can influence who they become. They may learn how important honest communication is after experiencing misunderstandings. They may realize the value of emotional consistency after living through instability. They may recognize that true intimacy requires openness rather than emotional distance. These lessons shape future relationships regardless of who eventually becomes part of their life. While another person is learning through their experiences, your own journey deserves equal attention. It is easy to become so focused on what someone else is discovering that you forget your own opportunities for growth. You also have relationships, friendships, challenges, dreams, and moments of reflection that are shaping your character. Every experience you have today is preparing you to become a wiser, more emotionally balanced version of yourself tomorrow. The greatest lesson is not to place your life on hold while waiting for someone else's story to unfold. Another person's path belongs to them just as your path belongs to you. Whether their current relationship teaches them what love truly means or leads them in an entirely different direction, your responsibility remains the same. To continue growing in wisdom, strengthening your self-respect, developing emotional resilience, and building a life rooted in authenticity. Because the healthiest relationships are formed not by two people searching for someone to complete them, but by two individuals who have learned to bring honesty, maturity, compassion, and genuine understanding into every connection they choose to create. Many people believe the greatest obstacle between themselves and love is distance, timing, or another person's choices. While these circumstances certainly influence relationships, they are not always the deepest barriers. Often, the most significant transformation happens within. The way you see yourself, respond to emotional pain, handle rejection, and define your own worth shapes the kind of relationships you create and sustain. If these inner foundations remain fragile, even a loving relationship can become filled with fear, insecurity, or emotional dependence. This is why personal transformation is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming emotionally honest and resilient. One of the first steps in this transformation is recognizing emotional wounds that quietly influence your decisions. Experiences from the past can leave lasting impressions. Someone who has repeatedly felt abandoned may become overly anxious whenever communication slows. Someone who has been criticized for years may constantly seek approval, believing that love must be earned through endless effort. Others may protect themselves by avoiding vulnerability, altogether convinced that opening their hearts will only lead to disappointment. These patterns often operate beneath conscious awareness, shaping reactions before logic has a chance to intervene. Healing does not mean pretending painful memories never existed. Instead, it means refusing to let those memories dictate every future relationship. Emotional scars can become sources of wisdom rather than lifelong prisons. When you begin understanding why certain situations trigger intense fear or sadness, you gain the ability to respond thoughtfully instead of reacting automatically. This awareness creates space for healthier communication, stronger boundaries, and greater emotional balance.